Hello, and welcome to the third episode of the Unscripted Dispatch, where today we're going to be talking about one of the main topics that I had mentioned in the first episode, and that's solo travel. Now, I wanted to start off with this story about solo traveling because it influenced the way that I followed on really solo traveling after this holiday, and it was my first solo holiday abroad. I'd done trips in the UK where I'd gone down to London for an exhibition, or I went to Belfast for the night. So this was my first international. It was to Italy. So inside Europe still, so it wasn't afar, but it was the first time that I had booked the trip myself and got myself to the airport and went. And I booked it basically because me and a friend went to an Italian restaurant. I was like, you know what? I want to go to Italy. So that night, in the car even, I think, I had looked at holidays. I'd talked to my parents about it. They were like, well, what are you going to do there? And I was like, well, I don't really know. So I booked it whilst I was at university, I think. During the lesson, I had booked this couple-day trip to Italy, couple nights, I think it was 3 days in the end, trip to Italy. And that was that. And I was like, you know what? I am so excited to do this. Always loved Italy, always wanted to go. It was Milan. So at the time in university, I was studying fashion. So it was one of the fashion capitals of the world. And it was like so exciting. So we're waiting and waiting, and then the day comes. So get on the plane, and I'm in Italy. This is where it all really started to go wrong, because I hadn't really done any research, which silly, naive me thinking, you know what, everything's going to be fine. So that's my first point. If you ever do a solo trip, please, please, please ask for help, research, check anything before doing it, because as you're going to hear, there was a cluster of things that went wrong. So firstly, which I didn't know, is that very few airports that budget airlines fly to are actually near the city that you're going to. Very helpful. So I flew with EasyJet, and we got to Milan Malpensa, which is the airport for Milan. However, it's like an hour away from the actual city, which I didn't know. So luckily I'd booked a transfer with the package holiday. So someone was at the airport to meet me, which was fantastic. And we were driving for ages. And then we got to this hotel, which was a lovely hotel. There was nothing wrong with the hotel. It was beautiful. But it was still half an hour away from the city. And I was like, Jesus Christ, how bloody far are we actually away from Milan? So that's where really the first obstacle came. And it kind of started to fill me with a bit of panic and a bit of anxiousness, because I didn't really know where I was. Where London, which is somewhere I've travelled very many times before that with family or school trips, I knew like the back of my hand. But entering Milan, it was a complete different situation, different scenario. So before the trip, I had booked a bus/boat tour of Lake Como, which is an absolutely stunning place to be, place to visit, place to live if you can afford it. Christ, houses are in the millions, in the tens of millions probably, and it was something I'd always wanted to go and see, because the scenery, the architecture, everything's just beautiful. So on the first day of my trip, I was like, right, ready for this bus tour. Oh shit, how do I get there? Because, again, I didn't really think. So, luckily, Italy's not a third world nation. It has Uber, it has taxi services, and I got myself to where this bus stop was. But this bus stop wasn't really signposted that it was where this bus tour was happening. So I'm trying to ask people, like, excuse me, is this where this is? And obviously they don't have a bloody clue what I'm saying, and I don't know what they're saying. because English, I don't know Italian. So I'm stood there like, excuse, excuse. In the end, luckily, the bus came and the bus had a massive logo on it that it was this bus. So I got on it, and the guide was fantastic. She was lovely. She spoke a couple of languages. I think she spoke English, French, and Spanish. Not Spanish at all, Italian. So when she was giving the tour when we were going through, she was saying all three languages. So it was actually really comforting to be with her as a solo traveler, because she understood what you were asking if you were asking a question. So everyone boards this bus, and we get little microphone parts, kind of similar to what I'm recording this on, and we get headphones so we can understand when she's talking other languages. And we set off. Now, this boat trip was the best part of my experience. Apart from one part, which kind of set off a roller coaster of emotions, which I'm going to talk about. But honestly, if you ever have the chance to get to Italy or Milan and take this bus tour around Lake Como, please do it. Because the bus, it was about 2-3 hours total, and they drove you to Lake Como. You got to visit this beautiful, I would call it was not a castle, but a palace looking. It's like Versailles, but in Lake Como, and it was gorgeous. And then they take you down to a little pier that you get on the boat, and you go across the Bellagio, which is like in the center of Lake Como, and nothing can prepare you for the views that you see, because it's absolutely stunning. But if you ever want to buy water, I'm going to get close. If you ever want to buy water, do not buy it from a takeaway if you don't speak Italian, because, and here's why, because I got 2 bottles of water, because it's Italy, it's August, it's hot, it's bloody hot. I was in shorts and t-shirt, and for anybody who knows me who's listening to this, I don't wear shorts. Just a fact. I don't like my legs. My family like to call me Casper, because they're so bloody white. Everyone else tans, I just don't. Thank you for the jeans. So that's what I tend to wear, jeans. But I was wearing shorts, so it's that hot. And so I wanted some water, as one would. So I went to this takeaway shop that I could see through the door had bottles of water. So I picked 2 up, and he's speaking to me in Italian. I just pay and I leave. Open 1 bottle of water. For fuck's sake, it's sparkling water. Now, I don't drink sparkling water. I just wanted some water. Plain, still water. Now, the bottles didn't say sparkling or still, otherwise I would have checked. So I went back and said, would I be able to change these for still? No. I was like, excuse me? Excuse me? He was like, no. I told you before, and I said and I checked, and you've opened them. So, no. I'd opened 1, so I could have changed at least 1. But the prick weren't having it. And that's fine, you know. So, I put 2 bottles of water in the bin. And it sounds silly, but, like, to be shouted at. Like, he shouted at me in front of a lot of people. And that really made me feel like shit, honestly. And I was kind of feeling homesick anyway. And people can say whatever they like about that, but I was 20 in a foreign country for the first time on my own, my first solo travel adventure, and it started to get to me really, really badly. So I found another shop, and I asked them, and they were an English couple who ran the shop, and I was like, is this still water? They were like, yeah, and I was like, oh, thank fuck for that. So I drank this water, took this water away, and I just sat down in this square in Bellagio, and my hands started shaking, and I could just feel myself starting to have a panic attack, and it was just this overwhelming sense of, oh my fuck, what am I doing? Why am I here? Almost like imposter syndrome, like I shouldn't be here. This just isn't me. I need to go home, and I need to just be at home. I can't do this. And everything was going through my head, like, how do I get out of here? How do I get home? Because I can't be here anymore. And the trip was only 2 nights? 3 nights. I think it must be 3 nights, because I stayed on the first night. This was the first day, and I had a couple of days extra left. And I was just in this panic, and my hands were shaking, and I couldn't think straight. So I sat down drinking this still motherfucking water, because it was still, thank God, ice cold. And that's what I remember. It was nice, it was lovely, it was ice cold, but I was like, what do I do? So my initial thought was, call EasyJet, get me on the next flight home. So I called the helpline, the UK helpline, and they said, how can we help you? And I was like, I need to get on the next flight home. I can't be here anymore. And the representative on the other end of the line was all that can be described as a gem. She was, is everything okay? And I was like, no. I said, it's my first time solo traveling. At this point, it's when you know you're going to cry, and your voice starts to break, and it starts to get a bit like, and she was like, is everything okay? And I was like, no. And I explained the situation, and I said, I just need to get home. I can't do this anymore. I need to get on the next flight home. And thinking back on it, it wasn't scary in the fact that I felt I was in danger, but it was scary the fact that I was in a foreign country feeling like this, and there was no one around to comfort me or help me in this. Because on the tour guide, they had all split off, and we were meeting back at this certain time, and it was like, oh my God, I'm on my own in Italy. What the hell do I do? So they were helping me through, and in the end she was like, we can get you on the next flight home tomorrow morning. And I was like, praise the Lord, thank you. Now, there was a charge to do this. I think it was like £160. At this point, I can't lie, I was broke. I went to Italy with no money, like, who the fuck does that? But so I was like, I can't pay, oh my God. And I said that, and she was like, don't worry, because of the situation that you're in, EasyJet accompany it. And I was like, oh my God. One, amazing, thank you. And two, I didn't know airlines could do that. And it sounds silly, but at the time I was just like so grateful. And once I knew that I was on the next flight home, everything was stress-free. I was able to enjoy the rest of the boat trip on the boat tour. I saw George Clooney's house, which was pretty cool. But then came the next thing, and it was like, oh shit, my parents, how the hell do I tell them, oh, by the way, I'm coming home tomorrow? Less than 24 hours in Italy, and I was like, I'm coming home, because I had arrived at midnight the day before, so it'd literally only been 13 hours at this point, and I was coming home the next morning. I was like, oh God. And it was like, the only thing you can do in that scenario is just tell the truth. So I called them up, and I was like, do I tell them that I got the flights wrong and I was coming home a day early? Or do I just... So in the end, I just told the truth. I broke down. It was an emotional situation, because they felt helpless because I was feeling like this in another country. But they were able to just talk and listen and everything like that. And in the end, it was fine. And they were like, right, well, we'll see you at the airport tomorrow. And then I called my best friend, and she was like, oh, how was Italy? You having the best time? I was like, no. And in the end, we talked for about half an hour, to the point where I was like, I'm really tired. Thank you for just talking. And it was hard to express it, because I'd always felt like the person that was able to just do things, just book a trip and go, book this and go. But in that moment, I felt so vulnerable and so scared that all you could do is really say this was a problem. And in the end, I was sat on the bed looking out the window in Italy. Not at a view, because there was fuck all there. But so the next day, and it's home time, I get to the front desk, and I'm like, I'm checking out early, I'm going home. And he says something in Italian. I said, no, sorry, I don't speak Italian, I speak English. Probably rude, but at this point I was so fed up, and I needed to get in a taxi on a bus home, because the thing is, I couldn't change my transfer back to the airport, which was in a couple of days' time. So I had to make my own way. And when you don't have a lot of money anyway, it was like, shit, get me home. So I got downstairs. I was like, I'm checking out. I'm going. Goodbye. And they were like, it's a €30 city fee, or city charge, I think they call it. And I was like, I've been here 24 hours less than, but they wanted to charge me for the whole time. And I was like, in the end, I was like, you know what? Fine, book it, get in the taxi. So what I had to do was get a taxi to the centre of Milan, which was a 20-minute taxi ride, by the way, to then get a bus to get to Malpensa Airport, which was an hour bus ride. And it just felt like one thing after another just couldn't go right. So I got on this bus, put my suitcase in, because I packed a fucking 20-kilogram suitcase and ended up wearing one thing. The same thing that I wore there, just changed, obviously, underwear and socks and all that. And I was like, oh my God. I still had a sandwich from the airport going because I just couldn't eat. That was another thing. I love food. And you're in Italy, you got pizza, pasta, everything else. I didn't eat anything. I didn't eat anything from when I left the airport until I got home the following day. Oh, and I got on the bus and I told my parents I was on my bus. And my dad, love him as may be, but he sent me a lovely bloody in-betweeners meme that said bus wanker, which in the moment I was like, fuck off. But looking back, it was funny because it was just a lot going on, and that just really helped and just brightened up a really shitty situation. So the bus sets off, we're on our way home, and we get to the airport, and I'm like, we're in reaching distance of the plane. Was just get through security, get through everything that we need to do, and get on this plane. And I wish that was the only those, as mounting as it was as a problem, were the only problems. But no, it gets worse. So I put my suitcase, get my suitcase checked in. It's get its little tag thing on that says Manchester, MAN. Let's go, we're ready. Suitcase goes off in the back of the airport through the little carousels to where the plane should be. You can see where this is going. Get through security. I buy my little trinket magnet, because that's what I buy when I'm away. That's what I buy, little magnets that I can put on somewhere. Get through security. I'm like, I'm feeling a bit better, let's get something to eat. Found something to eat, ate it. And I'm like, right, we've got an hour and 20 before the flight. Perfect. So I found a little corner in the airport that overlooked one of the runways. And I was like, oh, stunning. I can stand here, because there was no bloody chairs. Great design. And watch the plane. So I did. And for me, back then, I was just starting my YouTube channel, Planes TV. Give it a follow if you can. If you don't already. And if you don't, rude, but please do. And I got to see some great planes. A few from Asia. Cargo planes. So that was really good. And I was like, this hour has gone by pretty quickly watching these planes. Love it. I was like, let's go find the screen. So walked over. I'm like feeling the vibe now. I'm like, I'm ready to go home. Let's get going. 3 hours delayed. What? I'm like, can this fucking trip get any fucking worse? I was like, oh my God. At this point, I just mentioned my parents. I'm like, it's 3 hours delayed. And I think, if I can remember correctly, it was stuck in another airport. It had a delay there that made it delayed for their next flight, which meant that flight was delayed coming into Italy. And I was just like, oh my God, just get me on a plane. I don't care which one it is, as long as it's got wings, engines, wheels, and a fuselage. Let's just go. Oh, and that's how it felt. It just felt overwhelmingly like, fuck. So I went back to this window, kept watching the planes. And to be honest, time did go pretty quickly, because if plane spotting is something that you like and you can watch it for hours and hours and hours on end, then it's perfect. But when you've had such a shitty holiday, in one of the most, well, Milan, the centre itself, I didn't actually really get into very much. I got in a bus in and out, and then a bus in and out, so I didn't really get to see any parts of Milan. But Lake Como, everyone knows it. It's been in movies, it's been in films, that's the same thing. Television shows, adverts, everything, and it's gorgeous. But I was at this point, I was like, just get me out this fucking country. I want to go home and I want to get into my bed. 3 hours goes by and flight is now boarding. Praise the Lord. Get me on. So you go to the toilet, you get to the gate. Every single person is already at the gate because apparently they knew 10 minutes before you did. So you're at the back of the queue and you're like, you don't know, you don't care, just get me on the plane. So finally the plane starts boarding, and I just remember saying to myself, thank God, get me home. And I sat down, and back then I didn't have my lovely noise cancelling headphones, but I had them wired ones. Or was it AirPods back then, actually? I'm saying back then, it's 2 years ago, so I think I had my AirPods. So AirPods in, and it was like, strap in, strap that belt on. I had a window seat. It was actually fantastic because it was one of the last seats that they had, according to the woman that I spoke to the day before. And the plane starts taking off. Now, I ain't an expert in planes. I know a lot about them. And as we were taking off, it felt like the plane had burst a tyre, because the shake that the plane did, like this rattle, and it felt like, even though you're taking off, normally when you're landing and you hit the runway, it's like, oh Jesus, but that happened on takeoff, and I was like, oh my God, we burst a tyre, oh my God, why can't this just be a smooth ride home? But the plane kept flying, so thank God for that. I was like, that's a problem we can deal with in Manchester. But taking off and having that view of Italy on my right hand side as we're taking off and turning out of Milan was beautiful. You got to see Lake Como again, all of the mountains, and it was a sunny day, so it was fantastic to see, fantastic to look at. And we're flying, and we're flying, and then we're home. And it was just overwhelming, to get back into the country, because after being so anxious and so about the whole trip, it was just landing in the UK has never felt better, honestly. And I got my suitcase, I got my bags, and I left. And as I walked out of that do not return sign, my mum and two sisters had welcome home Harley on their phones, like a little banner. And afterwards, once I'd seen it and got in the car and everything, mum said we'd set it up, and the woman next to us looked at us and went, oh, has he been away long? Has he been gone for months or something? And mum went, no, he's been gone for 24 hours. The woman went, oh. No, so that was it was nice to get in the car and just laugh, because I really hadn't felt like laughing this entire trip. But now, and even a couple of weeks after that trip, I started booking other trips. One, I didn't book them for as long. I booked them for, this is what I do now. I fly overnight, or I'll get the train and I stay a night and I come home. Well, I'll say that I'm in Wales now and recording these episodes, and I've been here for 3 nights now, 4 days, because I absolutely love Wales. Wales is fantastic, and I get to plane spot at the RAF base just down the road, I just hit a spoon, sorry about that, down the road, and it's fantastic. So maybe I'll do longer trips in the future on my own abroad, but after the Italy scare, hell no. But so yeah, if I was to say anything about my trip and sum it up, 1, do your research. Make sure that you know where your hotel is, if it's close to the airport, or is it close to the city? Is the airport you're flying to close to the fucking city? Because Ryanair, I know I can't tell you which airport it is, but they fly to an airport, and the actual city that's meant to be their closest airport is 120 kilometers away from the airport. When I saw that, I was like, what? So make sure that your flight and your airport is close to where you want to visit, because chances are it's not. Secondly, never buy sparkling fucking water. It's known to give panic attacks. So don't buy it. Make sure it's still. And if you can avoid an angry Italian man over fucking sparkling water, please do. Because it kind of fucks a trip up. Number 3, make sure you go to Lake Como. It's stunning. Do the bus tour, do the boat trip. You won't regret it. That part I won't, because looking back on the images, it's beautiful. You cannot, I was going to say replaceable. It's, no words can really fit how you feel in the moment. Like, I know some people are like, oh, it's some hills, beautiful. But when you actually stand there and you look at it, the vast scale and the beauty and the weather and the sun and everything, it really gets to you in the best kind of way. 3, no, I've just done 3. Number 4, if you do have a problem, make sure you call EasyJet, because they will get you home. And I couldn't say anything better about the airline, because they handled the situation, helped me in such a good way that's really helpful. So big shout out to EasyJet. Thank you very much. Please sponsor the episode. that would be insane. But anyway, so that was my first international solo travel trip, and I do want this podcast to be a happier vibe and a more comforting vibe, but I do think it's also important to talk about situations that weren't great, but we've learned from. I've learned valuable lessons going into traveling in the future. So I do want to talk about these things, and episode 4 will be a lot happier because we're going to be talking about concerts. I'm going to be talking about my favourite concert this year, which is hard to do because I've been to 17 concerts now, and, well, 16. It's going to be 17. Once this episode comes out, it's going to be 17 concerts, and there's so many artists, which I won't get into now. I'm going to leave that for episode 4, but thank you for listening. I hope you've learned something from this episode, because looking back on it, I certainly did. But it's been a pleasure to talk about this experience, because so many highs, so many fucking sparkling water lows. But that is it for now. So thank you for listening to episode 3. I can't wait to talk about episode 4. It is going to be a fun topic to talk about. And yeah, so someone told me to say this after I posted my first episode. Like and comment and subscribe to Spotify. I don't know if you can subscribe to Spotify. I think you can. So do that, because everyone else has told me to say that. So make sure you do that, and I'll see you in episode 4. See you later.